Welcome everyone to Global Government News. Today is Friday, October 22nd, 2010, and I am Darko. Welcome to this economic news bulletin. For new listeners, please visit my website at www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Basically, I have a lot of news to cover here, so I'm just going to get right to it. All the links to every article will be posted as always, so you can go in there and read these articles for yourself. What I like to do here in these videos is basically just take a bunch of different articles from different sources and present them as headlines and then give you a little bit of my opinion on them. So I'm providing news commentary, and that's my goal, and hopefully you enjoy it. And this first one up is Wall Street posts third straight weekly gain. And it says down here, U.S. stocks capped a third straight week of gains on Friday as encouraging earnings helped the market sustain upward momentum led by Baidu Incorporated, the latest tech company to beat estimates. It says the market has defied expectations for a pullback following a strong rally prior to the earnings season. It says some investors were expecting the results to provide an excuse for broad profit taking. Next one up is gold sets first decline in 12 weeks. Gold steadied on Friday after its first decline in nearly 3 months, with bullion investors keeping an eye on any statements from the G20 meeting. Says any currency reaction to the G20 meeting in South Korea this weekend could provide fresh impetus to the gold market. Analysis, however, said it is unlikely for members to reach a deal on a U.S.-led initiative for a commitment from emerging countries to allow their currencies to rise. This next one up is stocks dollar zigzag as G20 seeks new policies. So it's all revolving around the G20, right? Global governance and non-free markets. World stocks and the U.S. dollar seesawed on Friday as finance and central bank chiefs from the group of 20 leading economies struggled to manage currencies and trade imbalances, leading investors to navigate choppy markets. Of course, uncertainty about the outcome of the G20 meeting, who are seeking the common path to manage global trade, prompted some investors to moderate their dollar selling unit. And this is a racket, man, just the stock market in general. And I don't participate in it. Your best bet is most likely to, diversify all of your investments. Like I said, I'm not an economist or anything, but I don't trust these markets that we have. I think the only people that really profit off of them are the big bankers and individuals such as Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and all of them. They know how to navigate through this corporatist fascist system quite well, while all the hoopleheads down here basically are just getting suckered. So, be cautious, be careful. If you're not aware of any of the stuff that's going on out there as far as the incorporation of the Federal Reserve and the income tax being a fraud and illegal and all the other good stuff. So this says stocks may face wild swings, earning blitz. U.S. stocks could see big swings to the downside next week. It says on any remotely bad news, since volatility indexes are levels considered too low. So let's move on to some better stuff here. It says more interesting news. Crude oil ends week on high note. Crude oil prices held above $80 a barrel Friday, ending a week marked by wild price swings roughly where it started as traders paused ahead of a weekend meeting of the group of 20 industrial developing nations. And this is all about the currency wars, as they call it. That's basically what it's all revolving around. Gold, because when theoretically when gold is up, the value of the dollar is down, and oil is traded in dollars. So it's basically it's just a big it's all intertwined, and it's based off speculation and government intervention. It says light sweet crude for December delivery rose $1.13 or 1.4% to $81.69 a barrel on the New York exchange. For the week, it fell 24 cents, and it said Brent crude went on ICE futures exchange, and said it went up to $82.99, so almost $83 a barrel, leaving it up 51 cents for the week. Prices all week focused on a weakening dollar, so there you go. And so stocks ended higher for a third straight week. Next one up is Treasurys mixed as bond markets brace for Fed's move. And of course, like you said, it all depends on what the G20 and this is going to imply is all depends on whether the Federal Reserve is going to buy Treasury bonds or whatever they have to do so they can print money and fix the economy. Treasuries were mixed in a quiet day of trading Friday as bond buyers looked toward an upcoming meeting of the Federal Reserve. The 10-year note was down 12 cents to $100.53, raising the yield to 2.56% from 2.54% late Thursday. The yield on the 30-year bond slipped to 3.93% from 3.95% as the price rose 43 cents on the dollar to $98.90. Bond prices and yields move in opposite directions. Next one up is unemployment from the Washington Times. Unemployment rate drops in 23 states in September, and it says here nearly half of U.S. states reported drops in their unemployment rates last month, the best showing since June, but job creation was weak in most areas of the country. Unemployment fell in 23 states, and Washington, D.C. Rose in 11 states and was unchanged in 16 during September, the Labor Department said Friday. The declines were nearly double the number reported by states in the previous month. Then we shoot here to the Wall Street Journal. It says jobless rates remain elevated, and it says the nation's unemployed, let's get this to move for me, follow the change in unemployment from the beginning of the most recent recession. It says below the state-by-state unemployment rates from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, seasonally adjusted. So, and this is a little region that I live in, and of course this doesn't include those that I have to constantly repeat this, because if there's anybody out there that is a new listener or is unaware of this, the real unemployment rate, which does include those that are no longer collecting unemployment benefits but are actually out of work, can't find work. And those numbers don't include it. So like you're looking here at Indiana, 10%, well, it's more about 15 to 20%. So you just have to look at it that way. And moving on here, it says nations agree to shrink global trade imbalances. So you like that? Redistribution of wealth, giving everybody fair and equal. That is not freedom, guys. Representatives of the world's largest economies meeting in South Korea reached tentative agreement early Saturday on the need to rein in trade imbalances as part of an American brokered compromise on calming exchange rate tensions that have threatened to disrupt the uneven global recovery. Says the Obama administration on Friday urged the other economic powers that make up the group of 20 to agree to curb persistent surpluses and deficits that could contribute to the next financial crisis. That was all done by design, right? So everything that happens, as far as how we're going to fix, not me, I have nothing to do with it, but it says how are these politicians and all these think tanks and corporations, how are they going to fix the global recovery, or how are they going to carry out this global recovery? And that's the kick in the ass, as they say, is well, it's all a sham, and it was all done by design in order to consolidate, along with making a lot of money, but consolidate, which means get rid of your smaller competition, and then you can come in at the end and write all kinds of legislation and all kinds of rules and regulations and that will help your monopoly, right? Well, it's like duopoly or whatever you want to call it, but it's a global feudalist system, and so they get to come in here and rewrite the rules, and then it'll all be in the name of preventing the next economic crisis. So moving on here, says IMF sees Asia continuing to lead global recovery. This is from the People's Online. Asia remains firmly in the lead of the global economic recovery, and strong growth in the region is set to continue, according to the report released by the IMF. Said the expansion in Asia exceeded expectations in the first half of the year, prompting the fund to revise its 2010 growth forecast for the region to 8%, nearly 1 percentage point higher than its April forecast, the IMF said. A lot of news here still. The UK retail sales, sudden fall in September. British retail sales unexpectedly fell for the second month in a row in September, driven by what is this? Driven lower by weak clothing and fuel sales, meaning consumer spending is slowing. Sorry about messing that up there, but moving on here. Goldman Sachs predicts oil jump, and this was in the 15th. I actually covered this, but I just was able to read the headline. It says global investment firm Goldman Sachs Group says oil prices will, quote, substantially rise in the second half of 2011 and 2012 as global inventory surplus is exhausted. In China, I was just reading an article that I'm going to be covering here about the rare minerals in China. They're gonna slow the exporting of those, and so all the little gadgets and iPods and Blackberries and all that, those little gadgets and toys that most people have are most likely going to go up in price because of that, along with all the food prices and all the other good stuff like inflation. It says, and now here's the first 11 state pension funds that will run out of money. It says, here's a shocker. The most immediate state pension crises aren't in New York or California. They're in middle America. Illinois is just 8 years away from exhausting its pension fund and creating a yearly $14 billion hole, according to data from Kellogg professor. Says that's a projected 32% of the state's revenue going to fill a pension hole every year. And yeah. So that'll be people like my mother who are teachers who are just about to retire, right? So they're trying to raise the retirement age so she has to work longer, and then they're gonna mess with their pension benefits because it's inefficiency, right? Oh, it's just inefficiency. The government's so inefficient. No, they're very efficient at stealing your money. Rest assured of that. They're like Nazis, They're very, very proficient at collecting data and extracting money and having it go a certain way and then documenting it. It says regulators closed 6 banks in Florida, Georgia, Illinois, and Kansas. And we're running out of time here, so we just got to keep moving on here. UK's Cameron announced military austerity plan. We already know about this. If you don't, there's so much news on it. Basically, it's basically cutting the defense budget, but it's cutting other things as well. It says French Senate passes pension overhaul. Oh, that's what it's called, overhaul. It says under pressure from the government, the French Senate voted Friday to raise the retirement age from 60 to 62. So that's what an overhaul means. Oh, I wonder what the healthcare overhaul in the U.S. means. A victory for President Nicolas Sarkozy after days of street rage, debates and strikes that dried out the supply of gasoline across the country. And it goes down there, and it says when I was reading in another news website, I think it was Press TV, they were saying that something about the full age is actually 65 to 67 as well. So just thought I'd include that. Average college student debt now a record $24,000. Next one up is in 15 of last 25 months, Treasury needed to borrow money to pay Social Security benefits. The U.S. Treasury has needed to borrow money to pay Social Security benefits in 15 out of the last 25 months on record because the Social Security system was in the deficit in those months with the costs of the monthly benefits payments exceeding the Social Security tax revenues flowing into the old age survivors and disability insurance trust funds, according to data published by the Social Security Administration. And just had to throw out there that Social Security was basically created in order to pay off the bankers, to pay off the bankruptcy that the U.S. Government had gotten themselves in, basically 20 years after incorporating or legislating the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. I'm running out of time here, so I might actually bust this into 2 videos. Never thought I would do that, but I have so much news here, it's amazing. It says 75 ways that the government and the financial elite will be sucking even more of the life blood out of the American people in 2011. And it goes down here and it lists some pretty good stuff here. It says in no particular order, the following are 75 ways that the U.S. government, state governments, local governments, and financial elite will be sucking even more out of you. It says state governments across the U.S. are raising fees and taxes in so many different ways, it's staggering. A reader named Richard recently sent me an email in which he described the shock and experience when he recently received his license plate renewal notice in the mail. So please, folks, join me in part 2 of this economic news bulletin. It's a special economic news bulletin. It's going to be a 2-part video series. So please join me. If not, thank you.